Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Paper Rose Studio's Cozy Fall Collection. I love making fall cards and couldn't resist using Paper Rose Studio's Cozy Fall Collection. I'll be using the 6x6 paper, but it's also available in 12x12. Here's a look at the original Cozy Fall Collection. There are 18 double-sided pattern papers. Beautiful designs. Some of them have a full scene, so if you make larger cards, these are perfect. There's also a sheet that includes cut-apart images and sentiments. They are on the smaller size in the 6x6 paper. If you prefer them larger, I would recommend getting the 12x12 paper. And if you're interested in any of the Cozy Fall Collection items, I do have links in the description box below. I also have the coordinating collection called Cozy Fall Basics. This is the 6x6 size. There are 18 double-sided pattern papers. In this collection, the prints are on the smaller side and there are more tone-on-tone patterns. It works perfectly to use both of them together since the colors and designs coordinate beautifully. Now, even though the name of the collection is Cozy Fall, I think the designs would work perfectly year-round. The Basics collection has lots of stripes. There's some tone-on-tone brick patterns, a few plaid designs. There are only about 3 designs that have specific images on them. The rest of them are perfect generic designs that you can use throughout the year. I also have both of the embossed die cut packs. There's Cozy Fall 1.0 and Cozy Fall 2.0. There's also a cut-apart pack available. I don't have that, but it is another option if you don't mind fussy cutting some images. I love using Paper Rose's embossed die cut packs. The images punch out easily. They're just connected by a few small tabs. I will use a pair of scissors and trim off that tab, but it is optional. The embossed detail on all of the images is so pretty. The images in each of the embossed die cut packs are different. Some of them are similar, maybe a different size, but if you purchase both of them, you will have a wide variety of images that work with the pattern paper, or you could add them on a cardstock background, maybe emboss it, do some ink blending, lots of different options. And I love the variety of different images that are included in the die cut packs. I have several cards to share with you using the new Cozy Fall Collection. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I will be using some card sketches for inspiration. This first sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 652. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For this first card, I selected 3 pattern papers using the tone-on-tone pink polka dot design for the top portion. I have a lovely floral paper at the bottom, and the narrow strip in the middle, I'm using the green brick pattern paper. I did have a small gap between the polka dot and floral paper, and I filled that in with a scrap piece of the pattern paper. I put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back of that narrow brick strip and adhered it in place. And I layered all of the pattern paper pieces on some dark green cardstock. The cardstock is by Basil. It's their jade color. I'll be adding the sentiment, "Thank you so much," and this is a cut apart from Paper Rose's All Occasions Sentiment Sheet Set. Before adding the sentiment, I will add an image. First, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, putting that right in the center of the card. Now I'll add one of the die cut images. A lovely pink watering pail with flowers, autumn leaves, and tiny pumpkins. I'm trying to keep most of these cards fairly flat, so I'm not popping them up with foam dimension. But if you prefer having more dimension on your card, you can definitely pop up the images and sentiments. I'll adhere the sentiment right at the bottom of the image and circle die cut. Since the very bottom and sides of the sentiment piece will go off the edge of all those other layers, I will add some scrap cardstock pieces behind before adhering it down. Then I'll put barely art glue on the back and adhere the sentiment in place. For a final finishing touch, using a small scrap piece of the green cardstock, I'll first cut a fishtail on the bottom, then I'll cut the right side in slightly at an angle, flip it over, and do the same thing on the other side. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in the upper left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 16. I selected 3 pattern papers, and these are some of my favorite from the collection. The pumpkin paper with the pink and green pumpkins is so pretty. For the background of my card, I'm using the diagonal stripe paper with green and pink stripes. For the smaller rectangle piece, that one features those lovely pumpkins. And I did round the bottom 2 corners using a corner chomper. I'm layering all of the pieces on the same dark green cardstock. I'll add the pumpkin paper panel in the center of the diagonal stripe paper. Then I'll layer that piece on the same dark green cardstock. And for my cardstock layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch. So the background stripe paper is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and the green cardstock layer is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I did cut it larger than what's indicated on the card sketch. Wanted to make sure it was large enough to fit this beautiful pumpkin and flower die cut image. For a sentiment, I'm adding "So Thankful for You," and I did put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the sentiment. Then for a final finishing touch, using a small scrap piece of the dark green cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper left-hand corner of the pumpkin panel. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, the card sketch is from Cards TV. It's sketch number 20. This is a great sketch for featuring several pattern papers. So I have 3 different pattern papers for the background. A yellow gingham, a wood grain in the center, and that top piece has a pumpkin pie and some yummy looking drink with whipped cream on top. I'll add all 3 of those pieces on some dark brown cardstock. And this brown cardstock is also by Basil. It's the bitter chocolate color. Now I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I have the rest of the card pieces in one of Scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays. This is the medium size. I have a stack of these sitting off on the side. It helps keep me nice and organized and not lose the pieces I have all ready to go for my cards. Use white cardstock for the image box, the same dark brown cardstock for that matted layer. I'll adhere that down first. I selected 2 of the embossed die cut images, some of the pumpkin pie and the yummy drink with the little pumpkin on the side. I'll adhere both of those down, adding the sentiment "So Thankful for You," and I did put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the sentiment. On the card sketch, it has some small circles in the upper left-hand corner and also in the lower right-hand corner. Since I'm keeping my cards nice and flat, I'll be using some Love from Lizzie peel-off stickers. This is the gold moon dust color in the mini circle style. And to fill in some of that white area around the images, I'll grab more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the gold color in the mini twinkle style. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card features a different die cut image and sentiment cut apart. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 352. For the background of my card, I'm using the orange gingham pattern paper. For the featured pattern paper, I selected this lovely design with lots of colorful yarn. And there's also a bunch of fall leaves scattered around the yarn. I'll layer that piece on some dark brown cardstock. Across the card, I'm adding some of the wood grain pattern paper. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Before adding the yarn pattern paper panel, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock behind it, just in the upper area where it goes off of that wood grain strip. Then I'll put adhesive on the back and adhere it in place more on the right side of the card. Instead of the circle element that's indicated on the card sketch, I'm using one of the image sentiment cut aparts that's included in the original Cozy Fall paper collection. I'll first layer it on some dark brown cardstock, put glue on the back and adhere it on the left side of the yarn pattern paper. Just the very left end is going off the edge. For a final finishing touch, I'll add 3 gold peel-offs in the mini circle style in the upper right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from Mojo Monday. This is number 531. I selected 3 pattern papers using the green brick pattern paper for the background. And for the 2 small rectangle pieces, one of them features the yellow gingham pattern paper, and the other has a pink mixer, a pink sewing machine, and the other image is a clock with this beautiful floral pattern. When I first saw the pattern paper, I thought that circle image was a pizza. I'll layer all of the pattern paper pieces on the dark green cardstock, put the yellow gingham piece down on the left side of the card. Before adding the image pattern paper piece, I will put a scrap cardstock piece on the very right side where it goes off of the gingham pattern paper. And that'll help it stay nice and level. Now I'll layer the brick pattern paper on the same dark green cardstock, put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I believe this is the only card where I'll be using a little bit of foam dimension, and that's only because I end up with a lot of layers in the lower left-hand corner. For the narrow banner that goes across the card, using the same dark green cardstock, I'll first cut a fishtail on the right side, and this piece will sit at the bottom of the image pattern paper and the yellow gingham pattern paper. Since there's already lots of different layers, I need to put layers on the back of this piece to keep it nice and level. On the very left side, this is where I'll add some foam dimension. In that little area where it sits on the yellow gingham paper, I'll add a couple of scrap pieces of cardstock. And I'm running my finger across that banner several times, just checking to see if I need to add more layers or take away some layers. Once I'm happy with it, I'll put glue on the back and adhere the green banner in place. I'll be adding one of the embossed images. At first I thought it was a radio, but I think it may be an air conditioning unit. But I think it works well since that green is the same color as the brick pattern paper and it has lots of beautiful leaves around it. For a sentiment, I'm adding just because. I'll cut a fishtail on the right side and tuck the left side in underneath the embossed image. Behind the top portion of the embossed die cut image, I will put some scrap pieces of cardstock. And I ended up adding 3 cardstock layers just on that upper portion of the image. Now I'll put glue on the back and adhere it on the left side of the card. And the right side of the image will sit on top of the very left side of the sentiment banner. For a final finishing touch, using a small scrap piece of green cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card features the same sentiment, but I have a different embossed die cut image. I love all the pink and green in this collection. It's so pretty. For card design number 6, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 1. I selected 3 pattern papers using the colorful grid paper for the background. I have this fun sort of chevron design for that larger rectangle and the pink tone-on-tone polka dot paper for this square piece. I'll layer all of those pieces on the dark brown cardstock. This is the same bitter chocolate color by Basil. I'll add the chevron panel on the left side of the card. Layer the background piece on the dark brown cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Before adding the pink polka dot piece, I'll put a scrap piece of cardstock and also a scrap piece of pattern paper on the very right side, just in the area where it goes off of that chevron pattern paper panel. Then I'll put adhesive on the back and adhere it in place. And this is where I'll be adding one of the image die cut pieces. I selected this fun yellow scooter, and it has some beautiful yellow and pink flowers sitting on the seat. Put glue on the back and adhere it on the pink polka dot paper. For a sentiment, I'm adding "You're the Best." I put double-sided adhesive tape on the back, and I'll layer the sentiment on the same dark brown cardstock. That way it doesn't get lost on that grid pattern paper. Now I'll adhere the sentiment underneath the image panel. For a final finishing touch, using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs, this is the mini circle style in the gold color. I'll put 2 of the larger circles in the upper left-hand corner and 3 of the smallest size circles underneath the little scooter image on the right side. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For one of the card designs, I am making 3. Now moving on to card design number 7, and this is a very simple card design with some of those beautiful full scene pattern papers. It can be tricky to use them since it's hard to cut up those beautiful designs. But I really wanted to feature one of the cards with this lovely library scene. I did cut down that panel to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, layered it on dark green cardstock. And using the back side of this pattern paper, it has the pink polka dot tone-on-tone design. I cut a narrow strip about 3/4 of an inch wide. I'll layer it on the same dark green cardstock, then adhere it on the left side of the card, about 1/8 of an inch in from the left side. Now I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For a sentiment, I'm adding "A book is a dream you hold in your hand." This is part of one of the cut-aparts. There was an image above it, but I decided just to use the sentiment. I'll adhere the sentiment in the upper right-hand corner, and I did layer it first on some green cardstock. On a stitch circle die cut, I'm adding the Stack of Books embossed die cut piece, and I did cut out that circle from some white shimmer cardstock. I'll adhere it on the very left side of the card, and I do have the edge of the circle going off the end. I simply flipped over the card, used a pair of scissors, and trimmed off that area. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card features another full scene This one has the beautiful fireplace with lots of pumpkins and candles around it. Now moving on to card design number 8, and this is my final card design. I've cut out 2 label die cuts, one from dark green cardstock, the other from vellum, and I used Paper Rose Studios Vintage Labels set number 2. I'll be adding the sentiment hello, and this is from the Hello Layered die set by Paper Rose. It's an older set, but it is still available, and it's one of my favorites. I use white shimmer cardstock for the word and black cardstock for the shadow. I'll simply glue the 2 pieces together. I love having this shadow. It adds that little extra detail and helps it stand out against a busy background. Now I'll set aside the sentiment and start working on the label die cuts. I have a strip of the green and white gingham pattern paper, and I'm adding it between the vellum and the green cardstock layer. So first I'll attach that gingham piece behind the green label die cut piece. And I'm holding it on the front of the card, trying to get the placement nice and even. Now I'll put adhesive on the back and layer this piece on the vellum layer. Now most of the time I would put that vellum layer directly behind the green cardstock layer, but I like the look of that pattern paper piece going in between the 2 label die cut pieces. Now I'll flip it over, put glue on the back, making sure not to add any glue behind the vellum. That way it doesn't show through on the front of the card. Now I'll adhere the label die cuts with that pattern paper strip at the top of the card. Now I'll layer the background piece on some black cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next I'll add the sentiment at the bottom of the card, put glue on the back and adhere it in place. And this is where you could pop up the sentiment and the image with foam dimension, but I'm trying to keep most of my cards nice and flat since I will be giving the majority of them to a local charity. I did place an acrylic block on top of the sentiment, helps it lay flat while the glue dries. Now I'll add this lovely die cut image. Little shelf with hooks, there's some foliage sitting on top, a couple of hats, scarves. I thought the colors worked beautifully with the green brick background. For a final finishing touch, using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in gold. I'll put 3 in the upper left-hand corner and 2 on the right side of the die cut image. So there is my finished card, and this time I made 3 using this design. The other 2 cards feature 2 different fireplace embossed die cut images. Now here's another look at the 17 cards I made using Paper Rose Studios Cozy Fall Collection. I used the 2 6x6 paper collections, the original Cozy Fall and also Cozy Fall Basics. I also had the embossed die cut packs set 1.0 and set 2.0. The paper is also available in 12x12 size, and there's a coordinating cut apart pack. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Paper Rose is based in Australia, and they do ship their products internationally, but you can also purchase them here in the US, and I have links for both locations listed below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.